Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 ingredients for oily skin, as well as some skincare products with these ingredients. Oily skin is something I know a lot of you guys deal with, and it tends to be more obvious in the summer months, especially if you live in a humid climate. It's a common myth or misconception, however, that oiliness is due to the skincare products that you use. To be clear, moisturizers, sunscreens, they don't make you oilier. Oil production is largely governed by hormonal influences. For example, in women, at the time of ovulation, progesterone levels are higher, and that makes you oilier or shinier. Men tend to have oilier skin than women as a result of the androgens, testosterone, things like that do in fact lead to increased oil production. You can have oilier skin as a result of your genetics. Some people just have larger oil glands, more prominent pores, oilier skin. So if you're looking for a sunscreen or a moisturizer that won't make you oily, stop looking. They don't make you oily. It's your hormones. It's just the nature of your skin. These products that I'm sharing with you in today's video and these ingredients, they can help reduce that burden of oiliness and help kind of degrease you. Ingredient number 1, clay. It can be bentonite clay, kaolin clay. Clay is found in masks, and clay is very absorbent. It helps wick up oil from the surface of the skin and from within the pore. That can reduce the appearance of shininess. Excess oil on the surface of the skin is what clogs your pores and can lead to blackheads and whiteheads, as well as acne lesions. Doing a clay mask can help reduce overall the amount of oil on the surface of the skin and from within the pore. That will help you not look as shiny, it will help in controlling breakouts potentially, and it will help your skincare products go on better. To be clear, however, the clay is not going to impact the rate of oil that comes out of your oil glands. It's just gonna kind of mop up some of the excess. I am a huge fan of the Cetaphil clay mask. I'll link it down below. The reason I like this product so much is that it has clay, but it's also very moisturizing. A downside of the clay masks is that they can be drying. And you know, people with oily skin, they sometimes think that they need to dry out their skin, and it's actually not true at all. Oiliness does not necessarily equate to moisturized skin. In fact, some people have oily skin and they also have a tendency towards dryness. So don't put the two together in the same box, oily and moisturized. They're not the same thing. So I really like the Cetaphil mask for that reason. It's not overly drying. It's the kind of thing that if you're particularly oily, you can try introducing it into your routine, obviously, maybe a few days a week. But if you tolerate it, it's the kind of thing that you ultimately could do on a daily basis. I also am a huge fan of the Inky List Kaolin Clay Mask. This too is very moisturizing. And if you're somebody who finds that sunscreen makes you look shiny and you feel as though it's making you oilier, again, to reiterate, it's not making you oilier. But sunscreens, they tend to reflect light and really make everyone look shiny. If you have oily skin, that's gonna be amplified. So try doing a clay mask like first thing in the morning to help kind of remove some of that excess oil from the surface of your skin. Then rinse it off, and then later apply your sunscreen. It will go on more evenly and not look as shiny. Ingredient number 2, niacinamide. Niacinamide is a B vitamin. It has tons of benefits for the skin beyond just helping with oiliness. It is anti-inflammatory, and it can also help in improving the moisture barrier. So for those of you who have oily skin, but you also have a tendency towards dry skin, niacinamide is a good ingredient to incorporate. Niacinamide also can reduce the burden of oxidative stress in the skin, which ultimately can break down that excess oil on your skin and lend itself to flares of acne and inflammatory, redness, irritation, etc. Because of its anti-inflammatory properties, there are studies examining its efficacy for the oily skin condition acne. And interestingly, using a 4% niacinamide moisturizer daily in people with acne lended itself to an overall reduction in acne severity comparable to using the prescription 1% clindamycin. So that's great, because unlike clindamycin, niacinamide is not an antibiotic, so you don't have to worry about bacterial resistance developing. And another study showed that using a 2% niacinamide moisturizer daily reduced the output of oil onto the skin as well as the overall volume of oil on the skin. So these studies that I've shared with you using 4% and 2% niacinamide suggest that it's obviously beneficial. And like I said, it's pretty well tolerated and it has anti-inflammatory benefits. The niacinamide market is saturated. Every brand is trying to grab your attention for their, niacinamide serum. 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever. You don't need a special niacinamide serum, and a high percentage of niacinamide is not necessarily better. In fact, in many cases, it can end up being too irritating. You guys know I'm a huge fan of CeraVe PM. This is a facial moisturizer with niacinamide. It works quite well. It's very oily, skin friendly. I highly suggest it. It also has ceramides, which will address any skin barrier defects you may have and help with dry skin. So that is a great product. But this video isn't necessarily all about the best products, it's about the best ingredients. So I will list down below in the description box some more good basic products with niacinamide, but the take home point is you don't need a high percentage and you can find a reasonable percentage strength in most moisturizers. Just look at your moisturizer. If it has niacinamide in it, great. It can help out your cause as far as the oiliness. Ingredient number 3 is green tea, specifically the polyphenols in green tea. They're very anti-inflammatory. They can reduce oxidative stress, and there's some data that green tea in an emulsion form can reduce oiliness and pore size, likely potentially by inhibiting some of the pathways downstream of the hormonal signaling that goes on. A lot of the mechanism has been teased out preliminarily in lab-based studies, but we do have some studies on actual people showing benefit in oiliness using a green tea emulsion. Specifically, a 3% green tea emulsion for 8 weeks showed an overall reduction in sebum in people. And then another one using a green tea emulsion for 60 days showed an improvement in oiliness. You guys actually recommended this product to me and I have been trying it out. Isntree green tea emulsion. Now I don't know the percentage strength here, but it is a green tea emulsion similar to what was used in the studies, although like I said, I don't know the percentage of the polyphenols, but it's a very nice lightweight moisturizer. You can derive the benefit of the green tea polyphenols using it. Green tea is also helpful for reducing redness and helping with hyperpigmentation. So it's got many benefits similar to niacinamide. And you can use it multiple times a day if you want to, twice a day. It's typically what people have, the bandwidth to incorporate is twice a day. And it can be layered along with other ingredients. You don't have to worry about it causing irritation. It's very well tolerated. Another product I wanted to draw your attention to is by a brand that I really like, Replenix. They have a lot of great sunscreens with green tea polyphenols, and they have this Age Restore Brightening Moisturizer that you might want to check out. Not only does it have green tea polyphenols, but it also has niacinamide in it. So you get both of those ingredients in this. If you're looking for a niacinamide or a green tea, you have both of those, which can help with the oiliness. So green tea is a great option. And the other nice thing about green tea is that it can also help potentially in reducing oxidative stress and free radicals from environmental stressors like sun exposure, pollution. Because both green tea and niacinamide are antioxidants, I suggest, you can use them up to twice a day, but I also suggest using them first thing in the morning. Apply them to the skin, allow them to absorb fully, and then apply your sunscreen on over. And if you want to do a clay mask before that, fine. And then just apply either the green tea or the niacinamide or both, and allow those to absorb fully, and then apply your sunscreen. The advantage here is that because niacinamide and green tea also are, they're antioxidants, in theory they can help reduce the burden of oxidative stress that comes from environmental stressors like sun exposure. And the reason that's important is that for people with oily skin, the breakdown of their oils can contribute to flares of acne and skin problems. So I suggest doing that, but you also can use these at nighttime. Okay, ingredient number 4 is an exfoliant that is really good for people with oily skin, and that is salicylic acid, or BHA. Salicylic acid is a chemical exfoliant that loves oil, and it focuses in the oily surfaces of the skin. It can penetrate into the oily areas very well, especially within the pore. It exfoliates the pore and it reduces oiliness. It kind of clears it out. And the other nice thing about salicylic acid is that it can help reduce the burden of acne lesions, but it also can help reduce hyperpigmentation. And I am a huge fan, obviously, I've talked about it at length. The Paula's Choice BHA liquid exfoliant, this is great. 2% BHA. It can be used up to twice a day if you wanted to, if you tolerate it, but I suggest incorporating it into your routine very slowly, a few days or nights a week in the beginning, and then bumping up to daily. See how you tolerate. It can be a little drying. So introduce it slowly, see how you do, and if you tolerate it well, then it can be used actually up to twice a day. It's a very good product. I will also list some alternative BHA products down below in the description box, so this isn't like the end-all be-all, you have to have this. But this is a good exfoliant for people with oily skin. Salicylic acid you can kind of just think of as getting into the pore nicely, and what it does is it breaks up the bonds between skin cells that are kind of stuck together so that they can dislodge and exfoliate out, and it also helps clear out some of the oil, so it can help with clogging of the pores that ends up happening if you've got too much oil on the surface of the skin. So it's really good if you've got blackheads, whiteheads, and oily skin. Last but not least, we have good old topical vitamin A, retinoid or retinol. This can help actually in suppressing oil production at the level of that hormone signaling, and it can help shrink the oil gland. I've got videos on the best over-the-counter retinols and retinoids. I'll of course list them down below, but don't sleep on good old Differin gel. This is a very well tolerated topical retinoid that really can help with the oiliness, and especially if you are prone to clogged pores, blackheads, whiteheads, and acne. This is a great product. It helps in kind of controlling skin cell turnover, so it helps clear out the pore. Retinoids actually can help shrink the pore, minimize pore size. That has been shown. So adapalene is a great choice you can get over the counter. It doesn't have to be the brand Differin. Several brands have adapalene. For example, La Roche-Posay does, and I think CVS even has a generic version of Differin. So it doesn't have to be the name brand Differin. Just look for adapalene. And again, I'll list down below some other forms of topical vitamin A, namely retinol or retinaldehyde, that likewise can help. All right, guys, those are the top 5 ingredients for oily skin. But to reiterate, products do not make you oily. Using a moisturizer is not going to make you oily. Not using a moisturizer is not going to make you oily. That is another myth that I hear a lot. Sunscreen does not make you oily. These things have no bearance on oil production. That, remember, is going to be governed by hormones. Now, other things that can influence oil production are going to be obviously your genetics. If you have a larger oil gland, your gender, men tend to have oilier skin. Your diet can also play a role in your oiliness, because diets rich in processed sugary foods, or potentially diets that are high in skim milk, these things, they can cause spikes in insulin-like growth factor, which ultimately leads to increase in oil production and more oiliness. That's why some of these foods are associated with stubborn acne, thought to be due to the role of insulin-like growth factor in oil production. So don't forget your diet. That can definitely feed into the oiliness. Women who deal with polycystic ovary syndrome, because their hormone profile is skewed more towards androgens, they suffer a lot of skin conditions related to that. Acne being one, more oily skin, as well as hirsutism or hair growth in a male pattern, the facial hair or body hair in a male pattern. And they're also more vulnerable to pattern hair loss driven by sensitivity of the hair follicle to those male hormones. So this is yet another situation where you may find that you have oilier skin. I mentioned the diet, but don't forget, working out doesn't make you oilier either. In fact, working out and getting some form of exercise into your daily routine may actually help improve your oiliness long term, because exercise can help regulate your insulin and blood glucose better, and reduces total body inflammation. That's directly going to impact that signaling to the oil gland and make you less oily. So that's a huge thing. Anything that causes you stress or poor health, poor sleep, can raise inflammation in the body and lead to spikes in cortisol, another hormone that can contribute to increased oil production. So the lifestyle factors go a long way. Products, they help minimize the appearance of oiliness, and they may help control it to a certain extent, but they don't cause oiliness, and they don't necessarily change your genetics or they can't change your hormones. But products do not cause oiliness. They don't push your oil gland to make more oil. If you think about the science and physiology of the sebaceous gland, that doesn't make sense. I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and check the description box. I will list these products down below for you all. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.